Breadbox Media programming is brought to you by...
Finding someone on an online Catholic dating site shouldn't be like shopping for a blender. So why do most dating sites leave you feeling like you're shopping for a spouse? At Catholic Singles, we connect members through our unique user polls and activities, which help you discover other members and their personalities and interests. Because you're a person, not a profile picture. So stop shopping and start discerning. Trust your love story to the original Catholic dating site and use the promo code BREADBOX at checkout for 20% off at CatholicSingles.com.
Looking for a way to build daily prayer discipline? Seen the rise in mindfulness meditation, but not sure if it is possible to meditate in a way that's consistent with your Catholic faith? Just looking for a way to breathe new life into your existing prayer routine? No matter what you're looking for, Hallow is here to help. Hallow is a Catholic prayer and meditation app that helps users deepen their relationship with God through audio-guided contemplative prayer sessions. From meditations on the daily gospel to the rosary to daily examines, Hallow has something for everyone. Hallow is the #1 Catholic app in the U.S. It is free to download and has permanently free content, but you can also check out all of the premium sessions for 30 days, risk-free, by signing up at www.hallow.app/breadbox.
Welcome back to another episode of the Lisa Hendey and Friends Show. Joining us on today's show is actually a repeat guest and someone who just keeps creating such beautiful work that we have to keep inviting him back. With us today is Anthony DeStefano. Anthony is an American author, a television host, and an activist. He's written 5 best-selling Christian books and counting for adults, and now 8 best-selling books for children, including the one that he joins us to discuss today, Our Lady's Wardrobe. Welcome to the show, Anthony DeStefano.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Lisa. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my goodness. I sort of wish that this was like the visual podcast where I could just hold up this work of beauty, Our Lady's Wardrobe, and just let everybody see. But I'm going to be covering my social media with images from the book to make sure that you get to see how beautiful this is. But Anthony, tell us about this particular book and how it came along at this time in your writing career.
You know, Lisa, I've always had a devotion to Our Lady, even before I was really committed to the Catholic faith. You know, I always just had a soft spot for Our Lady, and I've always wanted to write a book about her, but I didn't know what kind of book. And especially, I always wanted to write a book for children, introducing them to Our Lady. But again, I didn't know how. Most of the books that I've written, in fact, all of the books I've written, 20 now, actually, are for all Christians. You know, I've taken the C.S. Lewis approach in my writing, you know, that I write for all Christians. But this particular book obviously is for Catholics. And it struck me in looking at, you know, I go to Italy a lot. I'm blessed to go to the Vatican a lot and do work there. And I go to a lot of museums, and I see a lot of religious paintings. And it struck me one day that all the male saints pretty much look alike. You know, they're all dressed in these dull brown robes, you know, and, you know, whether it's St. Joseph or St. Francis or St. Anthony, they're almost interchangeable. And yet Our Lady, like a true woman, every time she's appeared in an apparition or in an image, is always dressed so beautifully and with colorful clothes and modest too, of course, but always so beautiful. And I thought, wouldn't that be a great way to introduce children to Our Lady by, you know, by writing a book with, you know, highlighting some of her most famous approved apparitions with some of the clothes that she wore, and also giving children what the main mission and message of Our Lady was and is, which is to bring us to Jesus, to bring Jesus to us. So I thought it was just a perfect way to introduce kids to Mary.
I mean, it's so innovative. I've never seen a book that looks at our Blessed Mother from this approach. And so kudos on that. And once again, on knocking it out of the park in terms of your prose and the way that you reach out to kids. But maybe for somebody who hasn't seen the book yet, just give them a little idea of what they're going to encounter when they pick up the book. Well,
what they're going to encounter is Our Lady through history, starting in Nazareth when she was very poor. We start with the spread of Our Lady of Nazareth. And then after that, we show some of her appearing, famous appearances in Earth. And that would include Our Lady of Mount Carmel and Our Lady of Guadalupe and Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal, Our Lady of Knock, Our Lady of Lourdes, of course, and Our Lady of Fatima. And the idea here is that, well, when she lived on Earth, she was very poor and didn't have many clothes, of course. She just wore simple, homemade dresses like everyone else did. But when she got to heaven, she, of course, has a mansion with a wardrobe full of clothes. Christ said that we were all in heaven going to have mansions. In my Father's house there are many mansions. So the idea is that Mary in heaven has a wardrobe full of beautiful clothes, and now when she visits us, she wears different outfits. And I just take children through some of the different apparitions and outfits that she wore.
That heaven picture, it's just stunning in terms of the color in the picture and the light. And it makes me want to ask you about this illustrator for this particular project. You're working here with, I don't want to pronounce her name incorrectly, Juliana
Juliana Kolosova. And I will tell you about her because, I've worked with some of the best illustrators in the business. I've always wanted my children's books to be as good as those books that are in the secular world. And so I've gotten New York Times best-selling illustrators like Richard Cowdery for The Donkey That No One Could Ride, and Erwin Madrid, who, for The Seed That No One Planted, and he that was afraid to be planted. He worked on the Shrek movies. I always get these really brilliant illustrators, but for this book, I wanted to get someone so special, someone who specialized in realistic pictures. That was the thing. I didn't want this book to be cartoony. And so I found, and I'll tell you why in a second, I found this woman named Juliana Kolosova, who's a Russian-born artist, grew up in Moscow, won all kinds of awards, and now lives in Canada and specializes in doing these really colorful, beautiful, realistic pictures. And the reason why I wanted her and why I wanted to take this kind of realistic approach is because of this beautiful doctrine we have in the Catholic Church called the Assumption of Mary. We believe that Mary, as you know, is in heaven right now with her body and soul. She's not just a ghost. She's not just a spirit. She has a real, vibrant, living, breathing, glorified body. And in heaven, she's not less active. She's even more active than she was on earth. And I wanted this truth to come across in the book. Our life in heaven is not going to be less real than our life on earth. It's going to be more real. And so that's why I wanted to use pictures that were very realistic and full of color and energy.
I had to actually look when I was looking through the book. I stopped and started examining. Is this a picture? I mean, is this like a photograph of someone that's been?
Oh, she used models. We had to find the perfect model.
Yes.
We had to find someone who looked, very beautiful and pure and innocent, and it was hard. We went through a lot of choices before we finally chose someone. And then she painted her. So, really terrific.
And then
beautiful process.
We see Mary in all of the different apparitions in the clothing that would be traditionally associated with that apparition. And one that's very, very striking is Our Lady of Guadalupe. And you also include the tilma. And tell us a little bit more about that particular illustration and that page of the book.
Well, you're talking about Our Lady of Guadalupe, and, this is a very, very important apparition, as you know. Our Lady of Guadalupe, she appeared to Juan Diego in the 16th century, and in appearing to him and leaving her image, her miraculous image, she converted 9 million Aztecs. She converted that whole culture, and you remember that was a culture of child sacrifice, ritual child sacrifice. Now, that's why we need Our Lady of Guadalupe today, because she is in that image, she was pregnant. She wore a black ribbon around her waist, which signified the fact that she was pregnant. And so today, Our Lady of Guadalupe, is the patroness of the unborn. And boy, oh boy, do we need that same kind of conversion today, because our society, as you know, is immersed in this. We have the same kind of ritual child sacrifice and abortion. So I wanted to make sure that we included Our Lady of Guadalupe in this book.
Now, you have one of my favorite apparitions in here, Our Lady of Knock, and so beautiful. I'm wondering, and you also have the miraculous medal prominently featured here, but I'm wondering, do you have a favorite illustration or apparition in the book?
I've always had a soft spot for Lady of Lourdes ever since I was a little boy and saw the Song of Bernadette when I was a kid. And then a few years ago, my wife and I got to go to Lourdes, and we went during the winter time when there were no tourists there at all, and we got to get up very, very early in the morning, 5 a.m., and go to the sanctuary area, and it was freezing cold, and we got to have the area all to ourselves with the grotto and pray in the very same spot that St. Bernadette prayed in. And I just always remember looking up at that beautiful grotto with the softly lit white light of Our Lady of Lourdes, and it was such a peaceful, beautiful time. And I think that Juliana captured the grotto perfectly in her picture of Bernadette holding a candle, looking at the grotto.
And one of my favorite aspects of that illustration is Our Lady's shoes, which are beautifully with roses on them. She captures so many little details here that are just so stunning. And I think it's one of the great things about kids' books that, a child can pick this up and see different aspects of Our Lady, in all the tiny little details.
Yeah, and Our Lady likes to accessorize, as they say. She wears rings in Our Lady the Miraculous Medal with rays of light coming out. She wears crowns. She wears roses on her feet. I mean, different kinds of dresses. It's okay. One of the messages Our Lady gives us when she appears to us is that it's okay to make yourself, to adorn yourself, and to accent your femininity if you're a man, or your masculinity if you're a male. Your femininity if you're a woman. As long as you're modest, you can always be beautiful and still be modest. And that's one of her great messages.
And then another beautiful thing of the artwork here is that we have so much beautiful nature and the flowers. I mean, we're recording in the month of May when we traditionally, honor Our Lady. We honor her all the time, but in a special way during the month of May. And I'm reminded about bringing flowers to Our Lady and what a gift that might be for somebody who shares this book with a child to remind them why we do that. Why do we do that?
Yeah, well, we do it because May is all about springtime, and springtime is about new life. After the cold and dead of winter, now you have flowers budding and you have leaves on the trees and all the animals coming out. It's all about new life. Well, who is Mary? She is the mother of new life, because Jesus Christ brought us new life, a new life of grace, a new life in the future in heaven. So she is the mother of new life, and that is why we honor her in the springtime and especially in May.
And there's one lovely thing that you include at the end of the book, which is actually something that we can do as young people who love our Blessed Mother. 3 sacramentals that can adorn our bodies to draw us closer to Jesus through Mary. What are those, and why did you choose to include those at the end?
Well, I'll read you the simple paragraph here, 3 things you can do for Jesus and his mother, and it just says, if you wear a scapular and Mary's medal too, and pray the rosary every day. God's grace is promised you. And yes, I wanted to include these sacramentals. It's very important. You know, one of the beautiful things about our Catholic faith is that it is so solid and concrete. You know, it's all about the incarnation. God is not just spiritual. He became a man. Well, our faith itself is incarnational. We have sacramentals. We have crosses that we can wear and scapulars and miraculous medals. You know, the material world is not bad, you know, like the Manichees thought. You know, we don't, Catholics, we believe that both the physical and the spiritual is good. And so I wanted to give children and the adults in their lives, I wanted to remind them that these sacramentals are very, very, could bring blessings to you if you wear them. And I try to do that too. I try to say my rosary every day. I wear a miraculous medal and I wear a scapular. I try. I don't always say the rosary every day, but you know, it's just a great. It's the prayer of the Gospels, and it's one of the most powerful things you can do.
Well, I can't wait to see Our Lady's wardrobe if I get to go to heaven someday in the future to poke around in her closet. The book is beautifully put together as something that could be a gift, and you even have, a gift plate on the inside of it that somebody could actually dedicate this to a child that they're giving it to, or to a grown-up. Frankly, I mean, I would love to receive this as a gift myself. And I was thinking about how young girls would be attracted to a book like this, but I'm the mother of sons, and I also think that there's a lesson in a book like this, not only about how we love our Blessed Mother, but how we treat women with respect and dignity. Any thoughts about that?
Absolutely. I thought that same thing when I was writing it. I of course, you know, the book is going to be very attractive to little girls who will love the dresses. But it's what a teaching moment it is for parents and their sons. Because, you know, here it is. This is Mary, the Queen of Heaven. She's the model of all women. She is to be, you know, given so much reverence because she's the mother of God and the queen of angels and the queen of women. She's the greatest creature God has ever created. Greater than the sun, the moon, and the stars is his mother, Mary. And so boys should be brought up learning that they have to have a reverence for girls and not to disrespect them or treat them badly, and have a respect for modesty as well. So there's plenty in there for boys. And by the way, I'm going to do Our Lady's wardrobe too, because there are many images of Our Lady that I left out of this book. You know, some great images like, you know, Our Lady Star of the Sea and, you know, Our Lady of Grace and various other images, Our Lady of Victory. Those images, you know, involve battles and things like that. And I have a hunch that the second Our Lady's wardrobe will be very popular with boys for that reason.
I can't wait. I hope Cabejo makes it into one of these as well. So, one of my favorite apparitions in Rwanda. So this is newly available from Sophia Institute Press, and I think it's a great, great gift to share an experience with this right now when we're sort of all staying very close to home. I was sharing with Anthony before we started recording that I'm not used to being home so much. And actually, through reading this book, it's almost as though I got to go on a little journey around the world with you and with Our Lady.
Well, that's great. And, you know, I want to say a word, too, here about, you know, Jesus Christ was not just, he was fully God, but he was also fully man. And that means that when he was a child and when he was a teenager and a youth, he probably got sick, you know. And when he was sick, who nursed him back to health? You know, it was Our Lady. Who made him soup, you know? Our Lady. So who did God entrust with God when God was sick? Mary. So when our whole society today is either sick or afraid of getting sick, who should we turn to? Of course, Our Lady.
Absolutely. Makes perfect sense. And so Our Lady's Wardrobe, it's available through Sophia Institute Press, and it's just a great kind of classic book for you to bring into your home, regardless of the ages of the people that live in your home. You're going to want this lovely, lovely resource. Anthony, I know you have something new coming out for grownups, and so we'll just hint at that, and I'll ask you that. I hope when that comes out, which is an entirely different type of a work, that you'll come back and visit it with us. Is there anything else you've got going on that you want us to know about?
You know, I'm always working on books. I do have a very serious book coming out very soon, and I do hope that I'll be able to come back on your show and talk about it. I've written, several books for adults, and I've got another Christmas children's book coming out this year too with Sophia called The Grumpy Old Ox. So I got a lot of sticks in the fire, which is great.
That's awesome.
God is very keeps giving me these ideas, so I'm very grateful.
Well, that is awesome. Keep daydreaming, keep the beautiful works coming, and just know that we're praying for you and for all the good that you do through your writing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Well, friends, that is it for this week's episode of Lisa Hendey and Friends. You can find links to Our Lady's Wardrobe and to all of Anthony DeStefano's work through my website, lisahendey.com, and we'll have links there for all our previous episodes as well as my contact information. I hope we can connect on social media. Pretty much wherever you can find a place online to click, I'm there these days. So until next time, have an awesome day, friends. God bless.
Looking for exceptional coffee delivered fresh to your door? We have the answer. Our friends at Grim Bean Coffee produce small batch artisan coffee using top-tier coffee beans. The coffee is roasted when you order, guaranteeing the freshest coffee possible. Check out Breadbox Roasts, a new line of Catholic-themed coffees available at www.grimbeancoffee.com/Redbox Media. Experience coffee like never before.